The Mariners' Felix Hernandez is, without doubt, one of the superstars in baseball. Yet through the years, your Rangers have had great success against him. King Felix has not beaten the Rangers in 2 years, going 0-5 with an inflated ERA over 5. So tonight, with a series opening win under their belts, the Rangers look for their first back-to-back wins of the season. Texas versus Seattle, coming up next on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball is presented by AT&T UVerse TV. Now, it's another beautiful evening here in the Pacific Northwest. This Saturday night for Ranger baseball could not be better. A cool, light breeze blowing in from left field as the Rangers get set to take on the Seattle Mariners. And welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Greaves, Steve Busby, with you. Delighted you could join us for this Saturday night of Rangers baseball as the Rangers renew an old rivalry, if you will, with Felix Hernandez. And they've had his number, Tom.
They have done really well against Felix Hernandez, and I don't think it means anyone on the Rangers loves to face him. But I guess the thing you have to remember, over the last 7 or 8 years, the Rangers have run out some pretty good offensive teams. It stands to reason that Felix might have some problems against them more so than other teams. But he's 12-21 against the Rangers in his career. 258 average isn't bad. He's given up a few home runs. Last season, he pitched well against the Rangers. Didn't beat them. He was 0-1, but he had an excellent ERA. He didn't give up a home run. The Rangers only hit 178 against him. So he pitched great against them last year. We'll see what this year brings.
Yeah, and the Rangers have found a way, it seems, of late to get by Felix Hernandez, whether it be a win or get him out of the game early so they have a chance. And Colby Lewis will try and get that job done on the mound for the Rangers tonight. So game 2 coming up from Safeco Field. Shin-Soo Choo and his mates will take on the Mariners. We'll be back with more of the pregame right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Ford dealers. The EcoBoost Challenge is on at your Texas Ford dealer. Get to your best in Texas Ford dealer today. By AT&T Uverse TV. Uverse has more live TV channels on the go than cable. And by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Just a few very high, thin, wispy clouds drifting overhead. Other than that, a gorgeous night here at Safeco Field. The Kings Court is in attendance. The Rangers are here, and it's going to be a dandy here on this Saturday night. We'll be back with the starting lineups and the first pitch coming up right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Felix Hernandez bobblehead night. He'll be on the mound as well, and thus the many folks coming on out to see him. And take a look now at the Texas Rangers Southwest Airlines starting lineup, and here's Tom to tell you all about it.
For the Rangers, leading off again will be center fielder Leonis Martin. Elvis Andrus bats second. Prince Fielders at first base batting third. Adrian Beltre is the third baseman. Shin-Soo Choo will DH and bat fifth. Robinson Chirinos, after a couple of excellent ball games, will bat sixth and catch. Carlos Peguero gets the nod out in right field. Rougned Odor bats eighth and second. And Jake Smolinski will be the ninth place hitter in left field.
And that lineup will be charged with facing the man that all the yellow shirts are out here to support. That would be the Kings Court, and they would be here to back up Felix Hernandez, the 29-year-old right-hander. And you don't need much to know about Felix Hernandez other than all four of his pitches are well above average if you were to grade them. Four pitches, but basic ones: fastball, curveball, slider, and changeup. He will make his fastball into about three different kinds of pitches just by changing the grip. And it may be an arguable point, but to me, he's the best pitcher in the American League and certainly one of the top two or three in all of baseball. And you think about a guy that is entering his 10th year of pitching at the major league level, and he just turned 29. That's a pretty good pedigree for what he's been able to do in the first 9 years of competing. Let's take a look at the Mariner defense that will back him up tonight. Dustin Ackley again in left field. Austin Jackson in center. Seth Smith to start in right. Logan Morrison at first. Cano and Miller up the middle. Kyle Seager at third base. And Mike Zunino, once again, he is behind the plate. Well, the Rangers come in at 5-6 here this evening. They are tied for second in the AL West, just a half game back of the Angels. Rangers trying to win 2 in a row for the first time this year. Mariners, meanwhile, have lost 4 straight ball games. They are now 3-7, and they are in 5th place, but only a game and a half back off the pace. And kind of a bunched up American League West. Everybody seems to be beating everybody else's brains out, and as a result, nobody has gone away to run and hide from the rest of the division. Last night's winner, Yovani Gallardo, and 6 innings of shutout baseball for Gallardo. Very impressive outing that he had last night. And as you said last night, Tommy, each game has improved.
That's exactly right, Buzz. I think he obviously improved in his second start over a lackluster start in Oakland, and he was even better last night. So everything is definitely headed in the right direction for Giovanni.
Now, Leonis Martin starts things off, and Leonis has had a lot of success in this ballpark. The last 11 games, Martin has hit to a 350 clip. 0-1 pitch to him. 1 ball and 1 strike. Martin at 156, no home runs, a couple driven in. This is second game back in that leadoff spot after moving down for a couple of games. There's that big curveball. It's 1-2.
When Felix first came up, his fastball was anywhere from 93 to 97. Doesn't have quite the same velocity, but really doesn't make a whole lot of difference when dropping a curveball like that.
Down the first base side, it's off of Morrison's glove, and it's going to go for extra bases. Leonis Martin into second base, standing with a broken bat double to get things going for the Rangers.
Well, Felix got ahead of him and dropped in that curveball for strike 2, and then tried to get a fastball in on Leonis. He got it in halfway. No, he got it down. It was in the middle of the plate. Leonis' bat snaps in half. Not sure where he hit that ball. He must have hit it off the end of the bat.
Yeah.
But he snuck it by Morrison at first base. And again, Martin to start the ball game has something going for the Rangers.
A little wry smile with Leonis Martin, and after you get a broken bat double, you can smile like that. Start things off against Felix Hernandez. So Martin at second. Now Elvis Andrus, Rangers shortstop, batting 174, will try to hit the ball to the right side. Get Leonis over to third base. Right side of the infield has come in a bit. There's a bunt laid down, and it's foul. So Elvis probably left to his own devices about how he wanted to get Leonis Martin over.
Yeah, I think generally when you've got a veteran hitter, that's what a manager will say. You know what your job is. You get it done the way you feel the most comfortable. And I think that depends on the pitcher and how comfortable you are facing the pitcher. But Felix is not the easiest guy to say, all right, I'm going to hit a ground ball to the right side.
Yeah.
He might keep you from doing that. Bunting is probably the best way to do it.
This bunt is down, and Hernandez, a little gimpy coming off the mound, throws to first for the out. The sacrifice goes 1-3. And that's one point we want to emphasize with Felix Hernandez. Now, he wasn't a sure thing to start tonight. He had a little tweak in his quad that he pulled it slightly, his right quad. He also tweaked his ankle, his right ankle, covering first base in his last outing. He's not moving around nearly as well as we've seen him in the past, and you might see a few more plays like this tonight from the Rangers. No, infield all the way in now with Prince Fielder up there. He takes that breaking ball down and in for ball 1. I wouldn't imagine this is a very comfortable feeling for an infielder to be in at the cut of the grass with a guy like Fielder up there.
Well, you just make sure you can get your glove up in front of your face if you have to.
Hard hit ball on one hop to Cano. That will be out number 2. Leonis Martin has to stay anchored at third. No, Hernandez did exactly what he wanted to. He got a ground ball at an infielder. Now 2-away, it'll be up to Adrian Beltre. Over the years, we have seen this matchup. You get a look at Prince Fielder getting that ground ball. Looked like Felix might have pulled the string a little bit.
I think he took a little off it. Prince is a little out in front of it and hit on top of the ball.
Beltre fouls it off. Adrian off to a very slow start at 149. 1 home run, 1 RBI. But against Hernandez over the years, Adrian Beltre has hit .294. He's gone 10 for 34 against his former teammate and close buddy. Zunino, a nice job blocking that.
One thing we've learned after one game against Seattle that we probably already knew from last year is Zunino can block the ball.
Yes, he can.
He must have had 15 tries at it in last night's game. He must give a pitcher a pretty good feeling that he can throw whatever he wants because he's going to somehow get in front of it. The only one he didn't block that I can think of last night was about 4 feet away from him.
Right. Beltre fouls that off. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Adrian this year, no luck at all with runners in scoring position. It's been 3 games now since Adrian's had a hit. That was right on the heels of a 5-game hitting streak. Got Leonis Martin at third, 2 outs here in the first inning. Hernandez from the stretch. 2-2. Beltre in Seattle for 5 years. He and Felix Hernandez became very close friends. They have continued that friendship. Felix Hernandez, though, has become less openly friendly during competition.
Yeah,
Adrian.
Yep, he's not yucking it up anymore.
Hitting. That fastball inside, and Beltre will trot on down to first base. Very nice. Somebody give him the ball back.
Well, Adrian's not feeling too good right now because the ball drilled him, but he has no animosity toward Hernandez because he knows he didn't do it on purpose. Trying to throw in, he just got it too far in. And Hernandez has too much pride to hit Adrian. He wants to get him out on his own terms.
Sure does. So runners at the corners now with 2 outs, and Shin-Soo Choo, the designated hitter, will face Felix.
If the game turns out to be anything like batting practice, Shin-Soo is in for a good game because I haven't seen him swing the bat like that in batting practice. I haven't watched every single one of them either, but I don't remember one this year. Generally, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but we'll see.
Well, better than swinging and missing several of them.
I'd rather have a good one than a bad one. You know, just like you've said, sometimes pitchers have terrible stuff in the bullpen and then they have great stuff in the game. So sometimes I guess you can have a bad batting practice and still have a good game.
Shin-Soo looking for some help from that last 5 ball games. They're just 0.77 in the average. That's since coming back in those muscle spasms. Hernandez gets the inside corner with a strike. It's 2-1. Choo handling DH chores tonight. You saw the numbers on him. 160 for the year. A home run and 3 driven in. Got Leonis Martin at third. Adrian Beltre at first. There goes Beltre and stops. The breaking ball. Again, Zunino dropping down to block it.
But the only way one's going to get by Zunino is if it bounces out in front of home plate and goes over his head.
Yeah. That's that one that Charlie Furbush threw last night that went for a wild pitch. That was in the other batter's box.
He just couldn't reach that.
No. Hernandez ready. A check of the runners. Gets a strike to Choo.
It may have been a ball, may have been a strike. The bottom line is it's 3-2, and now you get a chance to drive somebody in. Oh, not much doubt about that call. I think that had some left to right movement that may have fooled the home plate umpire, Adam Hamari. Ended up out of the strike zone. May have looked like a strike halfway to the plate, though.
Beltre on the move. 3-2 pitch is pop foul. Will reload and try it again. Well, if nothing else here in the first, the Rangers have forced Felix Hernandez to throw some pitches. Next one will be his 20th in this first inning. They'd love to get that runner home from third. Leonys Martin started the inning off with a double. He was sacrificed to third base. And Prince Fielder grounded out. Adrian Beltre hit by a pitch. Another 3-2 on the way. Chu down on strikes. Rangers gone with a scoreless first inning. No runs, a hit, and 2 left. After a half inning, Rangers nothing, Mariners coming up. Mariners come to bat in the bottom, and here's Tom with the Mariners Amica lineup for you.
Austin Jackson will start it off in the leadoff spot, followed by Dustin Ackley, the left fielder, Robinson Cano, Nelson Cruz, and Kyle Seager, the customary middle of the lineup. Seth Smith hits 6th tonight in right field. Logan Morrison is at first base. Brad Miller is 8th, playing shortstop, and the catcher, Mike Zunino, is batting 9th.
And that Mariner lineup will face Colby Lewis, a 35-year-old veteran from Bakersfield, California. Colby has always pitched well in this ballpark. This is his 11th start here. A fly ball pitcher, so this kind of plays right into his hands. A lot of fly balls that don't travel very far in this ballpark. And he's had some of his bigger strikeout performances here against the Mariners in the past. 1 ball and 1 strike to Austin Jackson, leading things off. Jackson, a 2.05 average. He has fared well against Colby in the past. 11 for 28. It's a 393 clip. 1-2. Colby, being a fly ball pitcher, has pitched up in this ballpark very effectively, and I don't think he worries about getting the ball down nearly as much here. And when he gets that fastball up a little bit, makes that slider, that one right there, even more effective when he's able to get it down and away. You get that fastball and slider starting basically on the same plane to a hitter's eyes, and pretty tough to handle. Another 1-2 pitch. A little fisted shot down the first baseline. It bounces by fielder, took a crazy hop, and Austin Jackson will be aboard with a base hit.
There's absolutely nothing Prince could do on that ball. That ball jammed him and had an incredible amount of spin on it, so that when it hit the dirt, instead of taking a normal hop, it just went straight towards second base. You see how he slices the ball off his hands. Watch that ball hit. And as Prince is going to get it, that ball goes right back the other way. It's very difficult to tell in slow motion. It makes it look like it's an easy play. But that ball looked like it was going to bounce right near the foul line. And as he goes to get it near the foul line, it went the other way. I guess if anything, it had no bounce straight ahead like Prince was anticipating. It bounced to the other side of him, and really there was nothing he could do about it.
The Rangers had a double to lead things off by Leonys Martin off the glove of the first baseman, Logan Morrison. And now the Mariners said, I'll see your double and raise you a single. Crazy hop single.
Yeah, that's about as cheap a hit as you can get right there. That ball hit about an inch above his fingers and had a lot of spin on it. The only way you could catch that ball is if somehow you anticipated where it was going to bounce based on how much you thought it was spinning.
Yeah,
that's pretty hard to do.
Looked like a billiard shot.
It did.
Now Dustin Ackley taking the second pitch up and away. It's 2 balls, no strikes. Ackley off to a good start this year, hitting .304 with 3 home runs. They've all been solo shots, accounting for all 3 of his RBI. Talked about the Mariners that 21 of their 33 runs scored have been the result of a home run. Take a look at the Ranger defense, brought to you tonight by Break Check. Smolinski, Martin, and Peguero, a left center and right fielder. At first, you saw him, and Odor and Andrews up the middle. Beltre at third. Robinson, Chirinos again behind the plate. And Colby Lewis is on the hill. A little bit high, 3-1 now to Ackley. Ackley, at least one base hit in all 6 of his starts this season. To center field, Martin has a bead drawn on that. Jackson halfway down to second retreats, and that is out number 1. And there's a good example in this ballpark where you give up a decently hit ball to the big part of the yard. It's a fairly easy play. And as a pitcher, you say, okay, I get behind a guy 2-0, 3-1. I'm going to throw a good fastball up and out of the plate and let him go ahead and wail away at it. And chances are, I'm going to have an outfielder able to run it down. You just want to make sure you don't give a guy a pitch in that spot where you pull it.
Yeah, just make sure you don't throw it to Robinson Chirinos.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well,
of course, Colby's going to have a hard time doing that.
He'd like to throw a lot of pitches to Chirinos, but since he's catching him. Here's Robinson Cano. 4-game hitting streak. He's starting to get things squared around. Gone 6 for 17 in those 4 games. Pretty good breaking ball. 0-2. Cano over the years has hit pretty well against Colby Lewis. He's gone 5 for 12. It's a .417 average with a double mixed in there. Austin Jackson, good speed at first. Colby will check him. Fastball in tight, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Mariners come into play tonight with the 13th best batting average in the American League, a .215 mark. They're last in on-base percentage at .261. That's in the dirt, and Chirinos did a great job of keeping that ball from going to the backstop. There's one of those ones, Tom, that was a long way away from him, and Robinson able to get his body in front of it to knock it down.
Buzz, a good breaking ball, a curveball, when it hits the dirt, has the same kind of effect, similar kind of effect as the ball that Jackson hit to first base. You know what I mean? When it hits, it doesn't just go straight to the catcher. It spins and goes the other way. So a catcher has seen that a lot, had a lot of practice, and can kind of anticipate it. It's much different for a first baseman on a ball that's batted toward him. You really can't tell what kind of spin it has on it. Pitcher knows it's a curveball, knows it's going to have a lot of spin on it.
2-2 is ripped to right field. 2 hops right at the base of the wall. Jackson being waved around third. Here comes the relay from Odor. It's there in time, and he's out at the plate. Again, the Rangers executing a relay to perfection. Peguero to Odor, on to Chirinos, and then Austin Jackson is nailed at home.
Well, we've said this over and over again that there are not many teams in baseball that can run the relay throw play anywhere on the field better than the Rangers have done it over the last 6 or 7 years. Doesn't matter who's out there. Perfect throw from Peguero, great throw, strong throw from Odor, and an easy tag at home plate. Peguero's got a nice arm out in right field. He picked that up and threw a nice strike that made it easy for Odor, who, as we mentioned last night, for a second baseman, has a strong arm. 2 strong throws, got a fast runner at the plate.
And Nelly Cruz shoots one off the end of the bat, foul outside first.
Yeah, whether it's been Nelly Cruz in right field, Josh Hamilton in center, David Murphy in left, you name who's been playing out there, they seem to run the relay plays very well. Ian Kinsler at second. Elvis has kind of been a constant over the years at shortstop. But whoever the second baseman has been with Elvis and whoever the outfielders have been, they make that play.
Shallow left, going out and being called off is Elvis Andrus. Jake Smolinski behind him makes the play, and that'll do it. So some great defense. The relay getting the Rangers into the dugout with a scoreless bottom of the first. One left after one. No score. Kansas City Royals will be treated to the first T-shirt giveaway of the season. First 15,000 fans will get a red Rangers T-shirt courtesy of Dr. Pepper and CVS. Visit TexasRangers.com/tickets or you can call 972-RANGERS today. Now, Rangers come to bat here in the top of the second inning. Still a scoreless game thanks to great defense. And the last man in that defensive chain, Robinson Chirinos, starting things off. Chirinos took the relay throw from Rougned Odor, which was perfectly made, and made a very easy tag on Austin Jackson. Robinson finds himself now down to the count. No balls and 2 strikes to Felix Hernandez. Chirinos, a home run and a double in each of the last 2 games. First Ranger with a pair of extra base hits in consecutive games since 2012. Last one to do that, Adrian Beltre. Looked like that power changeup that Felix throws. Chirinos gone, second strikeout. We'll take a look at our Kubota power stats for tonight. And we are featuring Felix Hernandez. Since his debut in 2005, nearly 2,000 strikeouts, the most in that time span, 4th best ERA. Over 2,000 innings, that's 3rd. And the last perfect game pitched in the major leagues, that would be King Felix back in August of 2012 against the Tampa Bay Rays. Other than that, he hasn't done much. Carlos Peguero hitting at .333. This is 7th game with the Rangers since being brought back from AAA.
I like the major league record that Felix set. 16 straight starts with 2 or fewer runs in 7 or more innings. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, anymore. That's and you notice the guys. Well, I think Glavine was in there, and I think Maddox was in there. You have to go back a ways to find guys that he tied for that. It's been 15 years or so since pitchers were expected to do that as a starter. Pretty good breaking ball from Hernandez. Peguero not able to check his swing. 2 balls, 2 strikes. This is the first at bat that Carlos has had against his former teammate, at least in a regular season game. Carlos, half the time, has been reaching base in his 20 plate appearances. And he has a full count now, so Peguero trying to get aboard with 1 out here in the second. He'll be followed by the Rangers' second baseman, Rougned Odor. Payoff pitch on the way. Check swing. Did he go? No, he did not. He appealed down to third base. Jim Wolf said nope. And there are about 35,000 umpires disagreeing with Jim Wolf in the ballpark.
Well, Carlos had to do some pretty good check swinging in this at bat. Let's see how good he did. That's about right on the line to where you're going to get the call.
And that probably depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah, and that might not get the call for every umpire. They got it that time, though.
In any event, yeah, that's the important one that we're talking about. Peguero at first, first walk issued tonight by Felix. He fires a strike to Rougned Odor. Odor at 171. Look at that on-base percentage. 170 points higher than his batting average. 341 on base. Limited times at the plate against Felix Hernandez. 1 ball, 1 strike. Odor, second most times reaching base on the Ranger club. His last 4 games hitting .231. He's been on base 15 times, and that's 8 times on base behind Prince Fielder, who's the team leader, but Odor finding a way to get on the sacks without getting base hits.
You're talking about Felix with that streak of 16 straight starts with 2 runs or less in 7 or more innings. Nowadays, you talk about if a guy has 10 quality starts in a row, which might be 6 innings and 3 runs,
right.
You brag about that. He had 22 starts with 2 runs or less in 7 innings or more.
Now, for the amount of, or I should say the lack of support that he has had offensively as a pitcher in Seattle for the most part, he's won 126 ball games in his 9+ years.
Yeah, if you pitch the same way for the Red Sox or the Yankees or whoever, you'll probably have 140, 150 wins by now over that same time. He's
got a career ERA of just a shade over 3.07. And that'll get you a lot of W's.
The other thing he does in the last 6 years, he's averaged 230 innings a year, too. That's in an age where you're hoping a pitcher can give you 200 innings.
Right.
And not many do.
2-2, not him swinging. 2 gone, and Jake Smolinski coming up.
Good fastball right in the outside corner, it looked like. Yep, perfect pitch.
Strikeout number 3 for Felix Hernandez. Yeah, Jake Smolinski stepping to the plate. 0.67 the batting average. Jake just 1 hit this year. He takes strike 1. Started the season 0 for 10 and snapped that with a double. But he's had 5 walks in 20 plate appearances, so that on-base percentage right at 300. 0-1 pitch. You might wonder, where is Mitch Moreland in all this with the right-hander on the mound? Mitch has come up with a little bit of a sore left elbow, and Jeff Bannister talking today about Mitch. He thought he would probably be available off the bench tonight and probably tomorrow, and with a left-hander on the mound tomorrow, they weren't going to push him back into the lineup. Probably wait till Arizona. A strike, 1-2 to Smolinski.
That's a good challenge for Jake. Young player getting a chance to face the right-hander Felix Hernandez. Great challenge. I always felt when I was a young player, if I had a chance to face a pitcher like this, I was at no more of a disadvantage than anyone else because no one else could hit him either.
Did he go around? No, he did not. And appeal down to first base, and Bill Miller, the crew chief, said, no, he didn't go.
That's an easy one.
One way to tell how good a guy's stuff is, if you don't watch him, is to watch the hitters. You get a lot of check swings, you know that his stuff is pretty good. 2-2 the count. So Felix strikes out the side, worked around a walk to Peguero, 1 left for the Rangers. 1.5 have gone by in Safeco, no score. Is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. The EcoBoost Challenge is on at your Texas Ford dealer. Get to your best in Texas Ford dealer today. Beautiful shot of downtown Seattle. The Rangers and Mariners hooked up in Game 2 of this 3-game series. Scoreless ball game. We head to the bottom of the second. Kyle Seager starting off, and Colby Lewis deals outside for ball 1. Seager a .211 for the year, but he has always swung the bat well against the Rangers and against Colby Lewis, a .381 career mark. Seager, like many of the Mariner players, struggling to find his groove offensively. Does have a couple of home runs, has driven in 5 so far. 0 for 3 in last night's ball game and grounded into a couple of double plays. 2-2. Mariners 14 home runs this year as a team. That's good for 3rd in the American League. Colby standing side saddle on that mound, and the 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball. That's banged into right center field for a base hit. Martin cuts it off. Seager a big turn. And Martin able to get it back quickly enough to hold Seager to a leadoff single.
The curveball stayed up a little bit. Seager put a pretty good swing on it. Trying to throw that, I think, probably down and in, and caught a lot of the plate. Allowed Seager to have that good swing at it. Leonis is playing over in left center field, which is probably the right spot if you throw him a fastball away, but slower curveball, he's got a better chance to pull it.
Well, the 3rd hit for the Mariners, 2nd leadoff base hit in as many innings, and here's Seth Smith. It's low for ball 1. Smith at .294 for the season. Limited number of at-bats against Colby Lewis. 0 for 5 for Smith. All those at-bats coming when Smith was over with the Oakland A's. And Smith mired in an 0 for 11 streak at the moment. 2 balls, no strikes. And Robinson Chirinos is going to go out and have a little chat with Colby Lewis. Doesn't look like Colby is in that groove quite yet. Breaking ball staying up on occasion, but just his body language out on the mound would tell you that Colby's not satisfied with how he's throwing the baseball at the moment.
In Colby's last start, he gave up 4 runs in about a stretch of 5 or 6 batters where he lost his command, and after that he got it together and finished that game very strong.
Pitch just off the outer edge. 3 balls and no strikes. Smith hitting 6th in the order. To be followed by the first baseman, Logan Morrison. And Colby hits the inside corner. Chirinos flashing the signs out. And the 3-1. That will fill the count. Like Smith taking all the way. Seth Smith acquired by the Mariners from the Padres last offseason. Brandon Maurer going to San Diego. Payoff pitch, runner on the move, and it's popped up. Beltre waiting for it to come down out of the twilight. 1 gone. Back to first is Seager, and Logan Morrison will come up.
Well, it's nice pitching by Colby, coming back from way behind in the count. Throw 3 straight strikes. Smith saw several fastballs, and still all he could muster was a pop up to the left side of the infield. Good fastball, tied him up a little bit.
Well, Logan Morrison steps in. He's got a modest 3-game hitting streak going. 176 average overall in 9 ball games for Morrison. A delayed steal. Seager going to second. The throw, I should say, Seager is out by, 2 or 3 steps.
I think Seager saw the ball hit the ground and anticipated that Chirinos wasn't going to be able to catch it. Whatever he did, he didn't have much of a chance to get into second base. It's a curveball in the dirt. Chirinos smothers it behind the hitter, I couldn't tell Buzz whether that's a delayed steal or whether he thought it was a wild pitch.
No, I think you're right. I think he was anticipating that ball in the dirt. There's a rocket down to fielder, and Prince will take it to the bag, and very quickly 3 hitters up, 3 hitters down thanks to the caught stealing. We'll move on to the 3rd inning. Rangers nothing, Mariners nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Game concert from Casting Crowns is presented by Buckner International. Concert will follow the 2:05 game against the Oakland A's. You can get your game tickets and a field pass to watch the concert on the field at texasrangers.com/concerts. The Ranger gear in evidence here at Safeco Field. A near capacity crowd on hand here tonight on Felix Hernandez bobblehead night. This is the 9th consecutive year for a Felix Hernandez bobblehead. That's got to be some kind of record, doesn't it?
Most people can only dream of one.
Yeah. Not Felix, though. He's had 9 of them now.
Wow. Well, we got to the ballpark I came on the bus, which came by the ballpark, 3 hours before the game or so, and there was a huge line waiting to get in. That's why there's so many people here tonight. Great crowd last night, 36,000. Looks like about the same tonight.
Leonis Martin doubled off the glove of the first baseman Logan Morrison as he led off the game against Felix tonight. Down to the count here, 0-2. A breaking ball way out in front of home plate. A ball and 2 strikes. That leadoff double by Leonis, the only hit the Rangers have had in the first couple of innings. They also had a hit batter. Adrian Beltre hit in the first. And Carlos Peguero walked in the second. Hernandez with 4 strikeouts. And a chopper to the right side. Morrison does the honors. That is out number 1. Now, before we tell you about Elvis Andrus, let's take time for a Mazda game break with Dana Larson. Dana? All right, Dana, thank you. Here, the Rangers and Mariners scoreless in the top of the 3rd inning. Elvis Andrus will step to the plate against Felix Hernandez. Well, Felix turned around looking at something. I don't know what he was looking at, but first pitch to Elvis, down and away for ball 1. Elvis had a sacrifice bunt his first time. Elvis, one of the better Ranger hitters against Felix Hernandez over the years, a 307 mark. 23 hits and 75 at bats with a dozen runs driven in.
Elvis put a charge in one last night, hit a line drive over Austin Jackson's head in center field. One of the harder balls we've seen him hit. Generally, if he hits a ball for any distance, he's gotten out in front of an off-speed pitch probably and hit it to left field. That one shot right over Jackson's head, who's a pretty good center fielder, but he couldn't get it.
2-2 now. Elvis certainly looks like he's swinging the bat with more authority. I mean, he's turning it loose this year.
Yeah.
The adjustments you've talked about, it looked like it freed his hands up a little bit.
It hasn't resulted in average yet, but I like his chances with that kind of a swing.
2-2 pitch coming. Ball strike three. Elvis looking for something other than the express. He didn't get it. 5 strikeouts for Hernandez.
That's exactly what it looked like. It looked like he was fooled by the pitch. It's a fastball. Inside corner. Pretty good pitch.
No, 2 away. And 4 in a row retired by Felix Hernandez. Here's Prince Fielder. Fielder, a little chopper to Robinson Cano his first time up there. That was with Leonis Martin at third and 1 out. Infield pulled into the first inning. And unfortunately, Prince hit a 1 hopper that was within range of Cano. This one sliced to left. Actually a long run in, but he's got good speed. And that will take care of it. Rangers gone in order. After 2.5 in Safeco, the Rangers nothing, the Mariners nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. For the Park Place Dealerships Texas Rangers Triple Play Game Show Spectacular. This year will be a big top bash on Sunday, May 17th at the Hilton Anatole. Proceeds benefit the Texas Rangers Baseball Foundation, and to purchase tickets or for more information, visit texasrangers.com/triple play, or you can call 817-436-5933. Brad Miller starting off the 3rd inning the same way that the Mariners started off the first 2 innings. That was with a leadoff single. Hasn't done any damage to Colby Lewis and the Rangers yet, but Miller now aboard to start things. Mike Zunino coming up.
And Miller hit that ball pretty well. Miller was in a little bit of a slump, just like a lot of the Mariner hitters. Last night, though, late in the ball game, he had a nice well hit double to right center field, and he stroked that single with authority to center field himself.
Zunino takes a fastball for strike one. Mariner catcher has made some, done some damage against Colby. He's 2 for 8, but a couple of home runs. Both those balls leaving the yard. There goes Miller. A hit and run's on. The throw is late. And into the stolen base on, it looked like a hit and run attempt by Zunino.
Yeah, if that was a hit and run, that might have been the best jump on a hit and run, because there's nothing that Robinson could do. Maybe a perfect throw might have made it a close play. Not sure what the skipper's talking about. The batter's interference, maybe?
Yeah, could be. And you're saying, of course, Jeff Bannister, a former catcher, knows a little something about being interfered with, trying to make a throw to second base. Adam Amari is listening to him. Zunino stays in the batter's box, stays within the confines of the batter's box. So it's not like he went out over the plate to interfere.
He just didn't get out of the way. He stayed in the exact same spot. Huge jump, though, by Miller.
Yes, it was.
It's only the second stolen base for the Mariners this year, I think. Yeah.
Well, Miller now in scoring position. No balls, 2 strikes to Zunino. And time called.
Miller has both of them.
Yep. And Chirinos going to go out and have a little chat with Colby, much to the disdain of the crowd here at Safeco.
Zunino's a little bit prone to the strikeout. Last year, I mentioned this last night, he only walked 17 times and struck out 158 times. And this is a spot where strikeout would be nice to have with a man on second and nobody out.
Call strike 3.
And there it is.
Just as you ordered, Tom. That fastball on the knees on the inside corner. And Colby with his first strikeout of the night.
And just caught the inside corner right at the knees. Zunino wasn't too sure about the call, but that was a very nice pitch by Colby.
Well, one very big out. Back to the top of the order, Austin Jackson, who hit a little cue shot down to first that got by Prince Fielder in the first. It was a good slider down and away. 0-1. Austin Jackson, the Denton, Texas native. 1 out of 4 last night, so 2 out of 5 in this series. Got Brad Miller out there at second. Has a modest lead. Throw down to second, and just back under the tag, Rougned Odor.
Rougned knows that he touched him on the leg, but thought he might have touched him fast enough before he got his hand back to the base.
Was he asking Elvis for a call?
I think Jeff Bannister's looking in just to make sure with the Ranger clubhouse on that call at second base.
Yeah, and we're going to have...
They're going to check it.
Yep. Joey Probinski, the man who watches all the replays upstairs, relays the information down to Steve Buechele, the bench coach. And Boole will send it on to Jeff Bannister. So apparently Joey, in looking through all the angles that he has afforded to him, looked like they thought he had a reasonable chance to get a call on the tag.
Yeah. Well, Rougned made a nice play. The throw's a little bit off target.
Yep.
He caught it and slapped that tag down as quick as he could. It looked like his hand was going to get to the bag, but hit the dirt and stopped.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like he got stuck.
And if either of the 2 feet were touched as Odor brought the glove down, he is out.
I think he's out. Be the 3rd straight inning the Rangers had a play.
That looks like there's contact there.
Yeah.
And contact there. So he's out twice.
Relay play in the 1st inning. Caught a man at the plate. Caught Seager trying to sneak into second base on what he thought was going to be a wild pitch. Turned out not to be. And now they're going to get Miller at second base.
Rangers
got it going.
Rangers get the overturn call 2 nights in a row. Last night they got one late in the ball game in the 9th inning. It led to an insurance run. And tonight they get one here to take a runner off second base with one man out. Lloyd McClendon not real thrilled with that turn of events, but Robinson Chirinos will be credited with a pickoff at second base. No, 2 outs, base is empty. Jackson taking a pitch for ball 1.
Last night, the M's had a lot of base runners. Rangers had 3 double plays. Tonight, it's a little bit of everything getting runners out.
Well, apparently starting an inning off by getting the lead man on
That's
is not
bad,
good.
Bad formula.
Yeah.
They've had 4 hits. 3 of them have been thrown out on the bases.
2-2. And the counter run full to Austin Jackson. Now Jackson hitting in the number 1 spot, trying to get aboard here in the 3rd. Dustin Ackley waits to be next. Colby Lewis trying to dispose of the Mariners. We'll try the 3-2 pitch again. Colby, despite all this, still a very manageable pitch count. This will only be his 42nd pitch. Trying to work through 3 innings in that total. Pop foul. That one's back into the seats. Well, Colby Lewis with the Rangers has been a better road pitcher than he has at home, and it stands to reason. Colby, as we mentioned, more of a fly ball pitcher, and sometimes in the heat of the summer that'll get you in trouble in Arlington. This pitch popped up. That's not going anywhere. Carlos Peguero will make the grab, and that'll do it. Again, no runs, 1 hit, and nobody left for the Mariners. We finished 3. It remains the Rangers nothing and the Mariners nothing. Fans 14 and older will receive a Texas Rangers camo cap. That's courtesy of Fanatics. Join us at Globe Life Park as the Rangers take on the Cleveland Indians and pick up your Rangers camo cap. Get your tickets at TexasRangers.com, or as always, you can call 972-RANGERS. And there is the King Felix bobblehead, the bobblehead du jour. Gold crown, and King Felix tonight has made 5 Rangers kind of bobble their heads at home plate. 5 strikeouts, just 1 base hit, 1 walk, and he is dealing to Adrian Beltre to start things off. Beltre hit by a pitch in the 1st inning. 0-1. Now 0-2.
There's been times over the years where the Rangers have caught Felix at the right time where he may not have had his best stuff. There's been times where he had his best stuff and the Rangers beat him in a low-scoring game. Not sure what the outcome of this game is going to be, but it looks like a game where he's got Right up there with his best stuff.
Well, Beltre will attest to that, at least at that at-bat.
This looks like he's commanding all his pitches, especially his fastball.
That is 6 punch-outs for Felix Hernandez. See that thing come back.
Yeah, right at the bottom of the strike zone. That's one thing he's got. He doesn't throw a ball straight.
Right. Well, we were talking about before the ball game. I told you that Felix Hernandez turns that fastball into about 3 different pitches with the different movements. That was one, that two-seam fastball that he struck out Beltre with. Also throw a fastball that is relatively straight, maybe cuts a little bit, and then he'll throw a true four-seam cutter that'll dart away from a right-handed hitter. Shin-Soo Choo, the count of 1-1. Choo went down swinging the first time.
And there's his changeup. That's 87 or 88 miles an hour. Typically, they talk, Buzz, about a changeup being whatever, 8 to 12 miles an hour slower than the fastball. In his case, his is effective. It's only 4 or 5 miles an hour different.
Yeah, his is a power changeup.
Sure is. A lot of guys would want it for their fastball if they could get the same movement on it.
Well, you know, Felix doesn't rely on as much a slow changeup as the arm speed that what a hitter sees. And if you swing at something that's 5 miles an hour slower, stands to reason you're going to be out in front of it a little bit. 2 gone on the ground ball to Cano. He has great deception with the arm speed or hand speed with that changeup.
Sure does.
Plus, the movement is, that in itself is enough. Now, he has retired 7 straight now, and 9 out of 10. Robinson Chirinos, a strikeout his first time up. Chirinos making his 8th start behind the plate for the Rangers this year. Ball club has gone 3-4 in those 7 starts. Last night, off of Jay Happ, left center field, just to the left of dead center field, and that ball carrying out into the bleachers out there.
You know, we said he made a liar out of us because no one could hit it out of center field. That might not have gone out if it went to this dead center field, 401. It was a little bit to the left of it, but I would have made the same statement about one going in that direction too.
Yeah, I would have too.
It doesn't really matter.
Field down to first, no swing, says Bill Miller. 1 ball, 1 strike to Robinson. Chirinos said, modest 2-game hitting streak going. We told you a double and a home run in each of those 2 games. Got a pretty good piece of Mike Zunino on the way down. It's 1-2. Chirinos saying something to Zunino. I feel your pain. Zunino said, no, you don't. I'm feeling my pain.
We've seen Zunino take a couple, and he doesn't even flinch. He just stands there. That's what Jim Sundberg used to do, too. He took him off the collarbone, the knee, the elbow. Never flinched, never went in for treatment. Of course, back then, you didn't really want to go in for treatment because if Gaylord Perry saw you in there, he'd find out what hurt.
Yeah.
And then while you're getting the treatment, he'd walk in and squeeze it, make it hurt even worse. So the only time you went in for training is if he's out on the field.
Out and away, the count now is full. So Chirinos trying to get aboard. 2 outs here in the 4th. Will be followed by Carlos Peguero.
Do you ever use Capsulin on your arm?
Oh, yeah. I use that every time I pitch.
Gaylord said he put this stuff, it's the hottest form of analgesic, I guess you can put on your arm. He put it on before the game, and then in about the 3rd inning, he'd have it taken off and put on again. Someone asked him why he put that on. He said, I'd rather have it burn than be able to feel the aching on the inside of my shoulder.
Right.
He used it to disguise the worst kind of pain.
Yeah, it loosened. It helped you feel loosened up.
Toby Harrell one time got itching powder, and when Bill Ziegler took all the analgesic off in like the 3rd or 4th inning, before he could put some on, Toby sprinkled itching powder on the back of Gaylord's shoulder, and Gaylord You thought he was going through the motions trying to throw a spitball way back before that. That time he was scratching his back. And
Carlos Peguero takes outside.
you wouldn't think something like that could happen in an actual big league game, but occasionally, you know, over 162 games, crazy things do happen.
Yeah, more than once usually. Peguero drew the other walk in this ball game. Chirinos has a walk. Peguero had a walk. A rip and a miss. Got that power changeup going down and away.
Gaylord used to get on Mike Hargrove when Mike would play first base if he didn't make the play. And he got on him one time. We got back into the dugout, and Toby said, if you say one more word to him, the next ground ball that comes to shortstop's going right by me. And of course, he wasn't going to do that, but he got his point across to Gaylord.
Breaking ball through the back door. It's 1-2. Chirinos at first with 2 outs here in the 4th inning. Logan Morrison holding the bag against Chirinos. 2-2. Carlos Peguero, going back to his days with the Mariners, he has a home run in 2 of his last 5 games in this ballpark. So some good memories for the Ranger right fielder. Felix Hernandez with 7 strikeouts through the first 4. Rangers strand a runner. After 3.5, Rangers nothing, Mariners nothing. Fox Sports Southwest. Mariners trifecta of runners thrown out on the bases. First inning, Peguero to Odor to Chirinos to nail Austin Jackson at the plate. That's the first one. And then Kyle Seager trying to advance on a ball close to the dirt is thrown out. And then Chirinos a straight pickoff at second. And after the challenge of the safe call, Brad Miller ruled out. No, we are still scoreless, thanks in large part to those defensive plays.
It looked like Miller was safe. It looked like he would be able to get his hand back before the tag, but his hand hit the dirt and never went forward. It just stopped. Actually, the tag got there before he could get it to the bag.
Looked like he had those little alligator arms. Couldn't quite reach the bag.
Yeah.
Dustin Ackley starting things off. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Ackley, a fly ball to center back in the first inning. Colby Lewis back to the plate. And the pitch fouled away. The Mariners have had the leadoff man aboard via a base hit in each of the first 3 innings. And Colby Lewis trying to put a stop to that nonsense. Another 1-2. And I think he will. Leonis Martin ambling over to make the grab. Ackley retired, and it will bring up Robinson Cano. Cano, as you saw on our AT&T Uverse rewind, had that double that he lashed into the corner in the first inning. Now, he has hit the ball hard. He has scalded the ball a couple of times in his last 3 or 4 at-bats going back to last night. And that's never good news for pitchers, because when Cano gets hot, he can hit the ball as hard as anybody. Cano now with the average up to 233. And off the fist, but by Rougned Odor for the 1-out single. Now he is 2 for 2 and continues to hit the ball well against Colby Lewis.
Yeah, Colby looked like he got this ball in on him a little bit, but he fought it off and found a hole. See, Rougie's playing over toward first base. Not really a shift, but definitely shading him to pull the ball on the ground.
And the Ranger infield now into a little bit of a shift going the other way, with Odor playing pretty much up the middle and Elvis over closer to the hole with Nelson Cruz at the plate. Foul ball makes it 0-1. Cruz a fly ball to shallow left, his first time up there. Nelly had a 3-hit night last night, extending his hitting streak to 6 consecutive ball games. He did have his home run streak snapped at 5 straight in last night's game. Although that fly ball he hit to left field, if he had straightened it out a bit, that was high enough that it would have gone out anywhere.
Yeah.
The thing had to travel 700 feet when you add in the height. Colby out in front of the count very quickly. No balls, 2 strikes. Ranger fans remember some of the times that Cruz got hot, especially in the postseason, and just ripped everything that he saw, and very few of those balls that he hit solidly stayed in any ballpark. Chopper to the right side, that is through for a base hit. Cano will motor on around to third. Figueroa's throw not in time.
He came up and fired that thing. Well, he threw him a slider, pretty good location with it too, down and away. And all Cruz could do is just kind of get the bat on it. Pitches right where he wanted it, but he got the bat on it. And you see the hole, and there's the little dribbler that found it.
I think only Cruz knows for sure, but sure looked like he was trying to do that. I think he was more fooled than anything else. But
yeah, I'm not sure if he was trying to or not. But on that kind of a pitch, I guess there's really not much else he could do with it if he was going to hit it fair.
Yeah, in any event, the Mariners with runners at the corners now, and just 1 out with Kyle Seager at the plate. Seager had a single to center his first time.
Last night, this would be a double play situation, so
sure
see
would.
if Seager's got another one in there.
The time called momentarily. Robinson Chirinos asking for time. He wants to rethink the sign for the first pitch. Wants that changeup. And he got it down and away for strike 1. Seager now is 9 for 22 against Colby Lewis. Got a 400 average. Colby's 0-1. That pitch inside, effectively making a hitter like Seager move his feet a little bit. You see Kyle, 2 double play balls last night, and they each came after Nelson Cruz had singled. He'll cue up the double play here. He checked his swing. Yes, he did. Field down to third. Jim Wolf said no swing. 2 balls and a strike.
Definitely checked it.
Colby ready to throw his 56th pitch of the night. 2 on, 1 out. Now 3 balls and a strike. Here's where you need to be careful with a guy like Seager, and I don't care what he's hitting at the moment.
Yeah, I would not throw him a fastball out over the plate right here. If you walk him, you walk him. But based on what he did to the Rangers last year, I'm not giving him a chance to do it again.
Went with a changeup and just missed the outside, and that'll load him up. First walk given by Colby Lewis tonight, and it will bring up Seth Smith with the bases full. I agree with you, Tom. You hate to walk a guy to load the bases, but when you fall behind 3-1 to a hitter like Seager, you might be better off doing that.
Yeah, we just saw it too many times last year. Seager had 5 home runs and 16 RBIs in 19 games against the Rangers.
Well, here's Smith, .327 average in his career with the bases loaded, but he's also on an 0 for 12 streak. Colby from the stretch and drops in the hook for strike 1. Smith also 0 for 6 career-wise against Colby Lewis. Got Cano at third, Cruz at second, Seager at first. Rangers a double play depth. Scoreless ball game. Colby Lewis trying to keep it that way. That's out of play down the left side, and now Colby in a situation where he can go ahead and go for the strikeout should he choose. Get that pitch up and in to a guy like Smith, or throw the breaking ball down. That good back foot slider that Colby has mastered so effectively. Robinson Chirinos will go through the series of signs. Colby picks out the one he wants. Pretty well hit to right field. It's playable for Peguero. Tagging at third, Cano. Peguero will throw the ball into second. And in to score, Cano. On to third goes Cruz. The Mariners have a 1-0 lead here in the 4th inning. Looked like he didn't quite get that pitch inside where he wanted it. Smith able to get a pretty good wood on it. Gets the sacrifice fly. I take it back. That was a pretty good pitch in there.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes you have to give credit to the hitter. He didn't get all of it, but he obviously got enough of it to get the sacrifice fly. One thing about Carlos Peguero, he likes to show that arm off, boy.
Yes, he does.
If he has a chance to gun it, he's firing it somewhere.
The only problem was there was no cutoff man.
not always going to a place where it matters much, but you got to fire it anyway.
Well, the Mariners get a run here in the 4th inning. Now Logan Morrison up there with runners at first and third. Colby Lewis starts him off with a hook for strike 1. Morrison grounded to his counterpart, Prince Fielder, his first time up. 0 for 1, hitting at 171. One ball, 1 strike. Logan Morrison came over from the Cubs to Seattle. Brazos, a right-handed pitcher, went Chicago way. Just missed the outside. It's 2-1. Excuse me, I was looking at Justin Ruggiano. Morrison came over year before last to the Mariners. He was one of the guys that the Mariners brought in an effort to upgrade the offense. He had 11 home runs last year, despite missing quite a bit of the season with injuries. Taps that one foul, and the count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Runners at first and third, 2 outs, a run across here in the 4th inning. Colby Lewis preparing to throw his 65th pitch of the night. And it's on the way. Morrison able to check his swing. The count now is full. So with 2 outs, Seager will be off and moving with the next Colby Lewis pitch. If Morrison's able to prolong this 4th inning, Brad Miller is waiting in the on-deck circle. Colby peering in for the sign. He is ready to work. There goes Seager, 3-2 pitch. We will try it again. Colby Lewis trying to keep the damage to 1 run here in the 4th inning. Our Fox tracker showing you the different areas that Colby has worked in this at bat.
Making some pretty good pitches. Morrison's just prolonging the inning, making some pretty effective swings to spoil those good pitches.
Colby with a new baseball back up on top of the hill. Chirinos again, the series of signs. Another 3-2 pitch. Lost him, and that'll load them up once again. And Mike Maddox on the way to the mound. Second walk of the inning and the game for Colby Lewis.
Yeah, the 3 outs on the bases in the first 3 innings had kept Colby's pitch count down nicely. This has been a long inning, though. A lot of the hitters have seen a number of pitches. Morrison saw a bunch of pitches because he fouled several off. 25 pitches so far here in the 4th inning.
Yep. And we talked about it before, Tom, but you get up into that area, 25 on up toward 30 pitches, and boy, the more you throw like that, the more chance there is of making pretty big mistakes in location. Your stuff tends to diminish a little bit, and you start trying to force it to get out of the inning too, and that leads to more mistakes. You got to be careful. Brad Miller, who had a base hit to center, his first time up, steps to the plate. Cruz, Seager, and Morrison, third, second, and first. Colby Lewis will continue to work from the stretch. 1-0. Colby pulling the string a bit. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike.
Miller was just certain he was going to see a fastball on that pitch.
Saw something that looked like a fastball.
Yeah. Colby didn't give in to him on it.
And he came back with a
there's
fastball.
Your fastball.
Yeah, right on your fist.
He would have had a good swing at it if he threw it on the net on the pitch before it, 1-0 when he was looking for it. The changeup put a little doubt in his mind. Now he's not sure. He's seen the fastball, been laid on it, seen the changeup, been out in front of it. Colby's thinking about, okay, 1 ball, 2 strikes. What do I throw to get out of this inning? And Miller's trying to guess along with him.
Ball strike 3. Yeah, how about a hook on the back door?
That'll work.
That'll do it. And the Mariners leave the bases loaded. They do score a run on a couple of hits. We'll go to the 5th inning. It's now Seattle 1, Texas 0. Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by the Mazda 6. J.D. Power has awarded the Mazda 6 highest ranked vehicle appeal among mid-size cars. A beautiful shot of the sun setting over the Olympic Peninsula out in Puget Sound. Rangers come to bat now, trailing here in the 5th inning, 1-0. Rougned Odor, Jake Smolinski, and Leonis Martin, the first 3 Rangers, due up against Felix Hernandez. And King Felix has it working tonight, 7 strikeouts through the first 4 innings. Odor, one of those strikeouts, as he batted in the 2nd, he takes strike 1. Rougned has gotten on base 8 straight ball games by a walk, a hit by pitch, something. And 10 of the 11 games to begin this season, Odor has been aboard.
We mentioned that even though Felix didn't beat the Rangers last year, he pitched well against them. And this is probably as well as he's thrown against the Rangers in recent memory. Sharp curveball. All his pitches looking good.
Austin Jackson handles that fly ball for the first out. Now this probably is as good an assortment and command that Felix has used against the Rangers in the last couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
And you get a guy like Felix Hernandez and say that his command is good and looks to be kind of crisp with his pitches. That usually spells problems for the hitters.
They're going to be tough to hit, no doubt.
Jake Smolinski also down on strikes. His first time he takes a strike here. First time that Jake Smolinski has been able to face Felix Hernandez in the regular season.
We've seen sharp curveballs, sharp sliders, an excellent changeup, and great location with his fastball. His fastball's been 90, 92 miles an hour. It's not mid-90s anymore. Boy, when you combine it with the rest of his pitches, the command and the movement, he's been pretty much in command of this game.
That pitch up and in, and it got Smolinski on the hand. And
they say he swung at it. Are they? Or no?
No. I think Bill Miller indicated he didn't swing at it. At least I think that was the sign.
He was asking him if he swung?
And Smolinski grimacing in pain. Headed down to the down to first base. It looked like he got him on that left hand. Boy, Jake's left hand and the wrist taking a beating the last couple nights. He jammed it last night when he dove for that ball in left field.
He definitely didn't swing at it. He started his swing, but he checked it in time.
I think he's left hand or his right hand. Might have got his right hand. Well, he's got both hands banged up. And they're going to have an appeal as to whether the ball hit him or not. Lloyd McClendon throwing out the challenge as to whether this was a hit by pitch. See what we can see on the replay. That's pretty inconclusive there. Nothing inconclusive about the reaction of Jake Smolinski.
No, if that didn't hit him, it's an excellent job of making it look like it did.
Boy, I can't tell from that replay.
Can't either. That's the kind of thing I guess you could hurt your hand just trying to check the bat.
Sure.
Swing.
Yeah.
Without the ball even hitting you. Just the torque that it takes, the strength that it takes to stop the bat like that could do something to your wrist.
Well, I guess the thing we have to remember now is that the ruling was a hit by pitch on the field. So there has to be clear and convincing evidence shown to the folks in New York to overturn this call.
I think that's one of the toughest ones to see.
Yeah,
we've watched hit by pitches, several times, and you just really can't tell. I can't anyway.
Well, I think when you're talking about the bat, the hands, and all that coming together, even in slow motion, it's hard to tell exactly where it was contacted.
Yeah, the ball's going 90 miles an hour, and you slow it down, it's still tough to pick up.
Bill Miller. And they say, okay, the call stands.
Yeah, I don't know how you could change it.
Yeah. Crowd doesn't like it, but sorry about that. Replay Command Center back in New York said, no, we have to go with the original call. So it's a hit batter. Second hit batter of the night for the Rangers, 15 for the year. This only the 12th game of the year. Smolinski aboard, one out back to the top of the Ranger order for Leonis Martin. Martin, a double and a fly or a ground out. And time called as Felix Hernandez went into the four-corner stall. Leonis 170 with a batting average as he faces Felix Hernandez here in the fifth inning. Martin waiting, hitting out of that slightly open stance. 1 ball, no strikes. Martin checking with Tony Beasley down there at third to see what Jeff Bannister might have in mind here. There's Tony giving the signs over to Jake Smolinski at first and to Leonis Martin at the plate. Showing bunt. And Leonis took it for ball 2. Martin, one of the Rangers that has fared pretty well against Felix Hernandez. Leonis now 9 for 28. And you look at bunt base hits for Leonis Martin, the most since 2013. 29 of them. There's a base hit to right field. Smolinski will motor around second and head to third. Now the Rangers have runners at the corners and 1 out for Elvis Andrus. Well, Leonis Martin employing the pull with a runner at first base, so the first baseman Morrison holding Smolinski aboard. It opened up that hole.
And Leonis is starting to come alive in the leadoff spot. He had a walk and a run in the first inning last night. He had a double that didn't score. Had a chance to score in the first inning. Now he puts men on first and third with 1 out for Elvis. Rangers trying to get that run back.
They trail 1-0. Elvis has had a sacrifice bunt He's been called out on strikes tonight. 0 for 1 officially. Takes a pitch off the plate inside for ball 1.
See, Elvis trying to jump back into the box. He doesn't want to get that letter from the league.
Yeah.
Not supposed to leave the box unless you foul the ball off, I guess.
Elvis with 42 career RBI against Seattle. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's the most for Elvis against any opponent. He also has 18 doubles against the Mariners. That's second most against any team. Angels one more than that. And the runners in scoring position have been a problem for everybody on the Ranger club this year except Prince Fielder. Infield for the Mariners, back a double play, depth up the middle. Both Seager and Morrison in at the corners. And that pitch inside. 2-1.
The Rangers have at least made Hernandez throw a number of pitches, not a huge number of pitches, but he's thrown 47 strikes and 33 balls. That's not a great ratio. They haven't been chasing a lot of bad pitches.
There goes Martin. The pitch is swung on and missed. The throw is to Cano, who was not covering the bag. He was about 10 feet from second base, so in safely with the stolen base, Leonis Martin. Second stolen base of the year for Martin. And the Rangers now with 2 runners in scoring position.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that was. If that was a play, it was pretty nice play, but it looked like a throw was about 6 feet off the bag, and Cano just happened to be standing there. Miller came flying across the bag to take the throw.
2 balls and 2 strikes. To short, that's going to get the run home. Smolinski crosses home plate. The throw to first in time, but Elvis has the RBI, and the Rangers have tied the ball game at 1.
With the infield back, that's what you have to make some contact. You can't strike out in that situation. It's not hard contact, but just as well. The stolen base set it up. No chance for a double play. You hit the ball on the ground to the middle of the diamond, and you pick up a run. Miller thought about going home, but decided to go to first, and the Rangers picked that run up.
No, we are back dead even now, and with Leonis Martin at second and 2 outs, Prince Fielder has a chance to unknot this game. Off the end of the bat as Felix came in with a changeup on the first pitch. Prince Fielder, a ground ball to second, a fly ball to left. 0 for 2 tonight. Stretch with that 5-game hitting streak that's seen him back close to 500. He's gone 10 for 23, including tonight. 1-1. American League hit leaders, Miguel Cabrera of the Tigers with 19. Prince Fielder's 1 behind. One and 2 now.
That's what you're talking about, Buzz. The changeup is only 2 or 3, 4 miles an hour difference, but the way he sells it to the hitter, he swings at it like it's 10 or 12 miles an hour different. He's way out in front of a pitch that really is only going 4 or 5 miles an hour slower than his fastball.
Just outside, 2-2. Well, I would think with a guy like Hernandez, you got to be very conscious of the fastball speeding up your swing. And I think he preys on that when he sees a hitter trying to turn it up just a little bit. Throw that changeup, and guys will be screwing themselves into the ground.
He's going to be his 87th pitch in the 5th inning, so not a lot of production, but at least He's not going 7, 8, or 9 innings today, it doesn't look like.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Got him swinging. Oh, a nasty breaking ball down and in, and Hernandez gets his 8th strikeout. Rangers, though, come back with a run on a hit and leave one. We're halfway through the ball game. Rangers 1, Mariners 1. On Thursday, May 14th. That's before the 105 game against the Royals. You can come out early and enjoy a fun and educational program from CBS 11 Weather Team. That ball is hit deep to left field and gone. Mike Zunino with his 3rd career home run against Colby Lewis. And just like that, the Mariners are back out in front, 2-1.
If Colby throws the ball where he wants to, Zunino's not going to get a hit against him. Struck him out the first time, and he was a guy that's prone to the strikeout, but this particular time he gets a slider right down the middle of the plate, and that's what he crushes. Last year, Zunino hit 22 home runs, struck out 158 times, and you can bet on those 22 home runs, the majority of them were on pitches that the pitcher threw near the middle of the plate when he didn't want to.
Yep.
You throw that pitch down and away, Zunino's either going to take it or swing and miss at it.
First home run, first RBI for Mike Zunino. And Austin Jackson fouling it off. Just to finish that thought about weather day out at the ballpark, Thursday, May 14th. You can visit TexasRangers.com for tickets. CBS 11 and TXA 21 bringing you weather day. 15th home run of the year for the Mariners as a team. Now Austin Jackson fouling off the next pitch. No balls, 2 strikes. Jackson tonight has singled and flied to right field. Former Denton Ryan product. One of the best all-around athletes in the Metroplex. Drafted and signed by the New York Yankees originally, went to Detroit. That is his first major league experience in a Tigers uniform. 0-2 pitch. Colby couldn't get him to go after that slider down and away. So wind the 1-2 offering. Austin Jackson, you mentioned, had good success against Colby before. He's now 12 for 30 against the Ranger right-hander. And he has come back from an 0-2 hole to run the count full. So Jackson with one out, or with nobody out, I should say, trying to get a board in front of Dustin Ackley. Colby with a payoff pitch. Jackson's 2 for 3.
And pitch away, just kind of reached out and stroked it into center field, hit it toward the end of the bat. You could tell that sounded like it might have cracked on that play.
Well, before Dustin Ackley comes up, let's send it back to Dana Larson for a Mazda game break. Dana? All right, Dana, thank you. Having some fun in Kansas City, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't a real fan of Laurie's slide last night either. He went in hard, slid past the bag. It's one thing if you're breaking up a double play, but on a slowly hit ball where there's no chance of a double play, breaking it up like that, to me, goes a little bit beyond protocol. I'm sure the Royals felt that way.
Yeah.
Not saying that's why Ventura drilled him, but
pretty good bet,
if you
though.
want to add 1 and 1, it usually comes up to 2.
It usually does. That's right. And 2-0 is the count to Dustin Ackley. Ackley has flied out to center both times tonight. There goes Jackson, and the pitch is chopped to the right side. Prince Fielder will do the honors at first. Down to second is Jackson. He's there in scoring position now with one away for Robinson Cano. Well, Ackley trying to execute a little hit and run, shooting for that hole on the right side. Roman Mendez getting loose in that Ranger bullpen. Bottom of the 5th inning. Colby Lewis approaching 85 pitches now, and he'll face Robinson Cano, who's 2 for 2 tonight. With Cano swinging the bat like this and first base open, I don't think I'd be tempted to throw a lot of good strikes to him. If you can get him to swinging something out of the strike zone, that's great. But well, there's a pretty good strike.
I'll try that 2 more times and see what happens.
Cano doubled in the 1st inning and singled in the 4th. You can throw it right down there and get a call to strike each time. Throw it down there too.
Yep. You throw it again and it's called a strike, and then the 3rd time, Cano's liable to hit a rope anyway, though.
That's true.
If he knows he has to swing at it.
Yeah. Cano off to a slow start with runners in scoring position, 1 for 7. But that is subject to change at a moment's notice. 0-1 pitch to him. 0-2. Austin Jackson at second base. Had that single following the Zunino home run. Advanced on Ackley's ground out. Colby trying to deal with Robinson Cano. Cano has increased his hitting streak now to 5 consecutive games. Popped him up. Good pitch there by Colby Lewis. Got it in on the fist, and Elvis takes care of the pop-up. 2 gone.
Tries to get it in and does. Lower part of the strike zone, right on the inside corner, and an excellent hitter up there in an RBI situation. He's upset with himself. Colby made a good pitch and got him out.
No, 2 outs now, and he'll deal with Nelson Cruz, who singled his last time. Cruz will hit that little chopper through the right side. Rangers again shifting so that there's a pretty good size hole, maybe a 70-foot hole between Rougned Odor and Prince Fielder. Nelly down on the count after that swing, 0-1. Cruz a .350 average. Off to a torrid start for 2015. 1 ball and 1 strike. Cruz now a 7-game hitting streak. He has gone 13 for 25. Signed that big free agent contract with the Mariners this offseason. Cruz, of course, leading everybody in home runs last year with 40 of them. Did he go around? No, he did not. Bill Miller down at first asked to make a ruling, and he said no swing. 2-1. Nelson Cruz, a 1 home run lead right now over J.D. Martinez with the Tigers. Adam Jones, Hanley Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, all with 4. Cruz with half a dozen. To center field, that's going to stay in the ballpark. Leonis Martin makes the grab, that'll do it. But Mike Zunino leads off the 5th with his first home run of the year, and we'll go to the 6th inning. It's now the Mariners 2 and the Rangers 1. Tonight's jackpot is worth $300 and dinner for 2 at Sonic Drive-In tonight. The Rangers are hitting for Dana Rowan from Midlothian. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam this inning, Dana Rowan from Midlothian will win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Now the Rangers could use a couple of slams here. They trail 2-1. Felix Hernandez back to the hill, and he will face Adrian Beltre, Shin-Soo Choo, and Robinson Chirinos. 3 pretty good candidates to knock one out of the yard. Well, the sugar fix is in. Kids are going to be bouncing off the walls here at Safeco shortly. That is good looking, though. Cotton candy. Here's Beltre, hit by a pitch his first time, struck out last time up, and takes strike 1. Alien at 145 with a batting average. Hernandez.
Another example of him hitting his spots tonight.
Boy, he is.
Again, though, he has thrown a number of pitches. This will be his 90th pitch.
Oh, 2 to Beltre. Shallow right. Long run in, and sliding is Smith, but ball drops untouched in foul territory. Beltre will come back, and we'll try it again. Smith kind of shading Beltre more toward right center, and just had too far to go. You look out over the left field wall, there's nobody even moving around in the Seattle bullpen out there, much less thinking about getting ready. infield pop-up. Brad Miller, one gone. Beltre 0 for 2, and now Shin-Soo Choo.
Got a hanger, just hung too high. Needed to be down a little bit.
Rangers still with just 2 hits against Felix Hernandez tonight. Leonis Martin a leadoff double in the first. And then a 1-out single by Martin in the 5th. Chu takes ball 1. Shin-Soo a strikeout and a ground ball to second. 0 for 2 and just 1 for 14 since he had to leave that ball game against the Astros with the muscle spasms in his upper back. That was a week ago last night. Chu, who began his career with the Seattle Mariners, hits that ball well to center field. Jackson is going back at the track and makes the catch. I think Chu felt he got most of that. And Austin Jackson with really plenty of room to make the catch.
He hit a ball, again, we're talking about batting practice, but he hit a ball out in batting practice to that same spot. But batting practice was a few hours ago. The sun was out, it was a little bit warmer. Maybe the ball carried a little bit better in the daytime than it did in the nighttime. Looked like he hit it pretty well off the bat. And it went 390 feet, so he did hit it pretty well. Just not far enough to that part of the ballpark to end up anything but an out.
Had kind of that sickening sound to it, too.
Yeah.
Well, here's Torinos. Slider to the outside corner. Robinson, a strikeout and a walk tonight. 0 for 1 officially. Batting average at .227 for the year. He's the Ranger team leader with both 2 home runs and 6 RBI. Robinson now a 1-1 count as Felix misses down and away. Hernandez to the wind. Popped up in foul ground. And that'll be back over the Ranger dugout. A ball and 2 strikes. Well, if anything had been bothering Felix tonight as far as his leg or his ankle, it certainly hasn't had a major effect. Mentioned he had a slight quad strain, also a sprained ankle, tweaked ankle. He has shown no signs of it limiting him. And swinging. Strikeout number 9 for Hernandez. Rangers gone in order. After 5.5 from Safeco, it's the Mariners 2 and the Rangers 1. timeless moment. Bobby Witt on this date in 1986, or yesterday actually, leaves after 5 innings, even though he has struck out 10 and has a no-hitter going. He leaves after walking 8, 4 wild pitches, 2 runs scored. Never forget that one. That was definitely a timeless moment. Took about 4 hours to play the game. Kyle Seager starting things off here in the 6th inning. Seager, Smith, and Morrison to face Colby Lewis. Seager tonight, 1 for 1, a single and a walk. Mariners 2 runs on 8 hits. Rangers 1 run on just 2 hits. Sharply hit, a fair ball by Prince Fielder, and that stops under the padding before Pregame can get to it. Into second with a leadoff double is Seager.
Well, Rangers got Seager last night, got him to hit into a couple double plays, but tonight he's got the Rangers, a couple of hits and a walk. That one was a well-placed ground ball. He hit it pretty well, though. Prince gives it a dive, but couldn't stop it from going down the line.
Oh, the 9th hit of the night for the Mariners. Leadoff double here in the 6th inning. They've had their leadoff man aboard in 5 of the 6 innings. Seth Smith, who drove in the first run of the game with a sacrifice fly in the 4th, will now step to the plate. Colby's 95th pitch of the night is high and away from Smith, ball 1. The action way out of the left field bullpen once again for the Rangers in support of Colby Lewis. This one's popped up and it should stay in play. Beltre with room makes the grab for out number 1. Staying at second is Kyle Seager. Take a look at the T-Mobile game changer. How about Josh Donaldson today? A walk-off home run against the Braves. The last 5 games, Donaldson, the newest Blue Jay, a .524 average with 3 home runs and 7 RBI. A .1565 OPS.
Yeah, the Blue Jays really haven't clicked offensively. Bautista and Encarnacion, both those guys are off to slow starts. Donaldson obviously isn't.
They lost Reyes the other day. Busted rib or cracked rib. Here's Logan Morrison, who has a walk and a ground out. One ball, no strikes. Morrison a .171 average as he faces Colby Lewis. 1 on, 1 out here in the 6th inning. Now 2-0. Colby, a belt high set. Reno. Colby had not walked anyone until the 4th inning, and he walked both Seager and Morrison in that frame, and he has fallen behind Morrison 3 balls and no strikes here in the 6th inning. Seager at second. 3-1 now. Jeff Bannister talking to Mike Maddox there. Matt Lucero, the assistant trainer for the Rangers, right behind him. Colby back to the plate. Chopper on the right side. Fielder underhands to Lewis, covering in time for the out. A good job by both Fielder and Lewis to show no panic whatsoever. Fielder just knocking it down, very calmly picking it up, and Colby going right to the bag, becoming a first baseman himself to take the throw.
One of those balls the first baseman has to make the decision. Do I go for the ball or let the second baseman get it? Prince knocks it down, stays with it. And a close play at first base, but Rangers get him.
Seager on to third, but he's there with 2 outs. And Brad Miller now will be at the plate. Colby will continue to work from the stretch. Miller 1 for 2 tonight. 1 ball and no strikes. Colby trying to get through this 6th inning, and undoubtedly this will be it. No, I shouldn't say undoubtedly. Most likely it will be it for Colby. 103 pitches after this next one. And that's a fair ball down the right field line. In to score is Seager. Miller going for 2. He's not stopping there. And Odor can't handle a relay throw. So in with a head-first dive is Brad Miller. And the Mariners lead 3-1.
Well, both hits, carbon copies of each other. Seager started it with his double right over the bag. Miller hit almost the exact same ball right over the bag. His turns into a triple. A little faster than Seager.
And Brad Miller will be the last hitter that Colby Lewis will face tonight. As you get another look at it. Down the middle of the plate, and Miller turned on it for his 4th run driven in this year, and he has driven Colby Lewis from the game as Jeff Bannister out there to take the ball from his veteran right-hander. So Colby finished after 5 2/3. He leaves trailing 3-1. Miller at third is his responsibility. Roman Mendez will be the new pitcher. We'll tell you about Roman when we come back to Safeco right after this timeout on Fox Sports Southwest. Membership in the Junior Rangers Club is only $20 and includes a Junior Rangers sweatshirt bag, baseball, ticket vouchers, and coupons, plus front-of-the-line access to run the bases after Sunday afternoon's games, and a whole lot more. Sign up at TexasRangers.com/Junior Rangers. Roman Mendez out of the bullpen now to take over for Colby Lewis. As Brad Miller at third, Mike Zunino, who homered his last time up at the plate. And a high-tight fastball at 94 miles an hour for ball 1. Numbers for Mendez. This is 6th appearance, 4 2/3 innings, with a 3.86 ERA for Roman. Hard-throwing right-hander, that pretty good slider and a great split finger pitch to go along with the blazing fastball. That fastball up and in got Zunino.
Yeah, Zunino's not a guy that you want to hit by a pitch. You want to make a good pitch, try to get him out. So that's nothing intentional. The fans didn't like it. Sure, Zunino doesn't like it either, but from an intent standpoint, nothing there other than a pitch that got away from him.
It's been 4 days since Roman was out there. The 14th against the Angels, the last time that Mendez pitched an inning. Just allowed 1 hit and 13 pitches that time out.
It's funny how it goes in streaks like that. There was a point in time where you looked at the Ranger bullpen and guys had pitched, I think several guys had pitched 3 straight days.
Right.
One of them pitched 3 out of 4, and you're looking for a break. They had to play 10 straight games, and now you look at the bullpen and there's actually a few guys that need some work.
Yeah, the Houston series, when Derek Holland went down on his opening day start, or home opener, and the bullpen had to finish 8 innings of that game, and from there on, that whole series,
Yeah, it was tough.
Everybody, it seemed like, had to work overtime.
Yeah.
You had Thomason and Feliz and Mendez, I believe, all worked all 3 days.
Klein was pitching.
Klein
was leading the league in appearances there for a while. Well, they had the 2 games in Oakland where the starters went 4 and I think it was 4 2/3, and then the Derek game.
Right.
So there was a lot of innings for the relievers, and now with an off day and an extra guy out in the bullpen, looks like everybody's ready to go, plenty rested.
1 ball, no strikes to Austin Jackson, who's 2 for 3. Mendez, after the little visit from Mike Maddox, throws a breaking ball for a strike. I would imagine a suggestion from the Ranger pitching coach. How about you having a little trouble getting that release point down? Go ahead and throw him a breaking ball and get back down in the strike zone. Fastball sails inside off the plate. 2-1. Looks like Roman might be a little overamped. At least his body is flying all over the place a little bit on the fastball. Jackson, a pair of singles tonight. Also fly to right field. He's up there with Miller at third, Zunino at first. A run across and 2 outs here in the 6th. Just missed the outer corner, and it's 3-1. Our Fox tracker showing you not a long way off the outside, but enough to be called ball 3. Ball 4. A hit, batter, a walk, and the bases are full for Dustin Ackley.
Definitely struggling with his fastball command. Throwing hard, but not able to locate the strike zone right now.
Now Elvis and Robinson Chirinos going to have a little talk with Roman Mendez. Mariners leading 3-1. And Elvis, a little pep talk for the big right-hander. Jeff Bannister trying to get his team off that roller coaster. Boy, it has been one in the early going. Ackley tonight 0 for 3, a couple of fly balls and a ground out. Mendez, first pitch to him. 1 ball, no strikes. And that pitch, I believe, is going to necessitate a phone call to the Ranger bullpen again. Mendez okays the sign. He's ready to work. Checking the runners. On the outside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike. Stolmy Pimentel. Up and loosening in a hurry. Pop foul by Ackley. Mendez now with the advantage in the count and a ball and a strike. I remember back to last year. Olsen up and loosening in the bullpen for Seattle. Now 2-2. I think the only flaw that we saw in Roman Mendez last year was an occasional bout of wildness that we're seeing tonight.
Yeah, you got to love his arm. Live fastball, complementary pitches to go along with it.
Now the 2-2 pitch. Got him swinging.
A little off that one.
And Mendez screaming into his glove at himself, no doubt. Well, that'll do it, but Seattle adds one. They get a run on 2 hits and leave the bases full after 6. 3-1 Seattle. The first inning, a great relay throw. Carlos Peguero, Rougned Odor to Robinson Chirinos, and Austin Jackson is out from here to Tacoma. And then it was King Felix going to work. He allowed just the 2 hits and 9 strikeouts through 6 innings. Mike Zunino, his battery mate, providing some power as he went upper deck to left field. His first home run of the year. That made it a 2-1 ball game, and Mariners add one more to make it 3-1. As we go to the 7th inning.
Well, Felix with 98 pitches is back out there to start the 7th inning. Mariners have a little bit of work going on in the bullpen just in case. Righty and lefty. Farquhar and Furbish.
Carlos Peguero is starting things off, and he takes a breaking ball. It's 1-0. Peguero a walk and a strikeout tonight against Felix Hernandez. Your right fielder, Justin Ruggiano, off the bench, taking over for Seth Smith. Ripped by Peguero, 1-2. There might be a little anxiety in the swings for Carlos Peguero coming back to Seattle as a member of the Rangers. Remember, he was working on a different approach. He was called out on strikes here. And that is strikeout number 10 for Felix Hernandez.
Again, we'll say it one more time. This is Felix at his best tonight. The way he's locating his fastball. After that slow breaking ball down and in, he got Peguero to chase it. Then he comes back and just paints a fastball right on the outside corner. Tough to contend with the assortment and the different locations he's had with his stuff tonight.
One away, and here is Rougned Odor. Odor 0 for 2, a strikeout and a fly ball to center. Trying to lay down a bunt. It's 0-1. And when you get a guy on top of his game, when he has the ability of Felix Hernandez, it is something to watch. I wouldn't imagine it's a whole lot of fun hitting against him, but it's something to watch.
No, the Rangers have had a lot of experience hitting against him, and I think in some cases when he's got mediocre stuff, they're pretty comfortable and they time it, they get their hits, but you can face him 100 times, and when you've got this kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. He's just throwing it where he wants to.
Yep.
Very seldom do you tattoo a pitcher who's got good stuff and great command. It just doesn't happen very often. Times the Rangers have gotten to Felix have been times where they've had good nights offensively, and he probably hasn't had his best night on the mound.
Check swing on the breaking ball, and Jim Wolf said, nope, no swing. 2-2.
There's just very little that's hanging in the strike zone. They're like the last pitch. Hard breaking ball down and out of the strike zone. When he misses in a place you can't do anything with it.
That's the curveball. That's his 12-6 breaking ball. He also throws that little slider.
It's without a doubt the best curveball I've seen.
Yeah.
Harder and sharper.
11 strikeouts. That's a new season high for Felix Hernandez in the Kings Court. All the folks with the yellow T-shirts out there going crazy. Well, 3 consecutive strikeouts. And Chirinos to end the 6th inning. Peguero and Odor to start the 7th, and here's Jake Smolinski. Strike one.
Well, a lot of them, too.
Hernandez back to the plate. That's low and outside. A ball and a strike. Jake is hit by a pitch in the 5th inning, scored the only run of the game for the Rangers tonight. The fastball fouled away. 1-2.
This is probably his last hitter, his last inning, and he's punched out 11. He's got a 2-strike count, and he's going to be going for a strikeout right here. He wants to walk off and have these fans give him a standing ovation. That's going to happen anyway, but it'd be even louder if this 1-2 pitch is strike 3.
2-2 now. Smolinski taking his time getting back in. And swinging. 12 strikeouts as Felix Hernandez has struck out the side in the 7th. Stretch time at Safeco. 3-1 Seattle. is celebrating 13 years. You can watch every out-of-market game live or on demand on True HD in over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more every night on every device. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. Bottom of the seventh inning, Robinson Cano leading off, and Roman Mendez deals a good fastball for strike one. Cano 2 for 3 tonight. A single, a double, a run scored. Average for Cano now up to 244. Mariners with 10 base hits. It's poked out of play. Nothing at 2.
Yeah, the Rangers, it feels like the Rangers are behind about 6 to 1 instead of 3 to 1.
Yeah.
The Rangers are hanging in there. They threw out 3 men on the bases early to keep it scoreless. Even though the Mariners have scored a run in each one of the last 3 innings, they've left some men on base. Felix is probably done after 7, so.
Cano, swing and a miss. The ball gets away from Chirinos. The throw, and it's tied.
Cano didn't know the ball got by until it was too late. Robinson jumped on it and had to get rid of it quickly and throw a strike, and just did get Cano at first base.
You're going to see Chirinos have to battle the weighted bat and all the things in the on-deck circle.
Pine tar rag?
Yeah, to try and get to that ball and get his footing to make a throw.
Boy,
bang,
they
bang
got
play.
about an inch.
Yeah. Well, the strikeout, the putout goes 2-3. Nice play by Chirinos. Here's Nelson Cruz. Cruz 1 for 3 tonight. Nelly at 341 with the average. Breaking ball backed him away, caught the inside corner. 1-1. Cruz has not faced Mendez before. And Danny Farquhar, the right-hander, continuing to loosen. Looks like he will be the new Mariners pitcher when we go to the top of the 8th inning.
Well, Farquhar's got pretty good stuff, but I don't care what kind of stuff he's got tonight. It's not going to be good as the guy he's replacing.
Cruz really let it rip on that hanger that he saw up there from Mendez. And the count evens on the foul ball. No, you're right. He may have velocity-wise as good, but for the combination of movement, velocity, and location, no comparison for anybody with what we saw from Felix.
It's not Farquhar. It's anybody you want to bring in.
Yeah. Called strike 3. A splitter diving over the outside corner, and Cruz admiring it into Chirinos' glove for the strikeout.
Well, after Mendez hit Zunino with a pitch and walked Jackson, Mike Maddox went out to talk to him, and since then he struck out 3 straight batters, Ackley, Cano, and Cruz. It's starting to click for him right now.
Yep. That's that split-fingered fastball that he uses that really came back, and something Cruz hadn't seen before. He's seen it now. Here's Seager, who is 2 for 2. Kyle, a single, a double, a run scored. He's also mixed in a walk. He's been on board all 3 times to the plate tonight. Average at 250. Another splitter from Mendez. That missed. 2-0. Seager has faced Mendez one other time. Roman got him out. Gets a knee-high strike, even to make the count 2-1. Two balls, 2 strikes. The Jekyll and Hyde kind of appearance that Mendez is having tonight. We've seen that happen before, too, where he finds something and settles down quickly and gets the job done. I guess the idea is to eliminate the rough edges at first and be more like the pitcher we're seeing right this second.
Yeah.
That's easier said than done. Seager pops one up, foul territory. Beltre on the move, makes a basket catch just before he gets the photographer's well. No, Mendez, a couple of strikeouts, a little pop foul, and the Mariners down in order. After 7 complete, it remains Seattle 3, Texas 1. Off here tomorrow afternoon. An off day on Monday. Rangers will be in the Valley of the Sun to take on the Diamondbacks Tuesday night and Wednesday night. Another off day on Thursday, and then the Angels next weekend will finish up the road trip, and it's back home to take on these Mariners and the Oakland A's. Well, Danny Farquhar, 28-year-old right-hander, now on to take over for Felix Hernandez here in the 8th inning. Farquhar appearing in his 6th ball game. Opposition hitting .250 against the right-hander. Throws a cut fastball, a changeup, and a curveball. Basically a fastball, curveball kind of pitcher. Been a mainstay in the Seattle bullpen the last couple of years. 66 appearances last year after 46 the year before. Leonys Martin will start things off, 2 for 3. He takes a strike, showing bunt.
That ball looked like it was inside. He wanted a bunt, couldn't bunt at it. The one guy that's on the disabled list, Tom Wilhelmsen. Rangers have seen a lot of him in late inning relief over the years. Hard thrower.
Ball on a strike. Yeah, Wilhelmsen from time to time has been the closer and done all kinds of things for the Mariners.
Yeah.
Cut fastball in for a strike. It's 1-2. Leonys, a single and a double and a stolen base tonight. Just gets a piece of it to stay alive, and a ball and 2 strikes. Martin 1 for 3 in previous matchups against Farquhar. Here's that curveball, and it's a dandy. Zunino keeps it close enough to retrieve and fire to first. 1 gone.
Rangers have struck out 5 straight times.
And before Elvis Andrus comes up, we'll send it back to Dana Larson for a Mazda game break. Dana? All right, Dana, thank you. Well, here it's the Mariners leading the Rangers tonight, 3-1. That was the final in last night's ball game. Going the other way around. Elvis Andrus 0 for 2 this evening with a sacrifice bunt. Drove in the Ranger run back in the 5th inning. Down to the count now, 0-2. Out of play. Elvis a hit in 5 previous official at bats against Farquhar. Right-hander sets. Another foul. Farquhar originally a 10th round draft pick by the Toronto Blue Jays back in the 2008 draft. Played college baseball at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Not a big guy, but 5'9", 185. Got a big arm. This is outside. 2-2. Back to the plate. Got him swinging. Cutter. Back-to-back strikeouts.
Well, I said that no matter how Farquhar's throwing, when he comes in, he's not going to have the same stuff that the guy that he replaced had, and probably doesn't, but it's pretty good.
Results are pretty similar.
He's faced 2 guys and struck them both out. He's had a 94 5-mile-an-hour fastball. There's an 88-mile-an-hour cutter. Seen a changeup. Seen a pretty good curveball. Got a good assortment of pitches himself.
Between he and Felix Hernandez, now the last 6 Rangers that have come to the plate have struck out. Here's Prince Fielder, takes ball 1.
It looks like Keone Kela is going to get to pitch here in Seattle with a lot of his friends and family in attendance. He's warming up now. Mendez pitched an inning and a third, I think it was. Inning and a third. He's probably done, and Kela's warming up now.
A strike to Prince. Yeah, we were talking to Kela yesterday, and he said, one thing I've learned very quickly being back here in Seattle was how to say no. That's probably a valuable thing. Pitch fouled away. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Fielder. Prince 0 for 3 tonight. A ground out, a fly out, and a strikeout. Farquhar sets. And a little looping pop-up that Seager, the third baseman, grabs. That will do it. Rangers quietly out. 1-2-3 in the 8th. 7.5 in the books. Mariners 3, Rangers 1 on Fox Sports Southwest. Afternoon, 3 o'clock Central Time. Prince Fielder and the Texas Rangers taking on Nelson Cruz and the Seattle Mariners. Cruz, of course, the Major League home run leader with 6, and Prince Fielder 5th in the American League with that .419 average coming into play tonight. So the wrap-up tomorrow afternoon from Safeco Field, and on the Safeco Field mound right now, Keone Kela, 21-year-old right-hander who grew up in the Seattle area. Happy to be back here, and boy, don't you know he is a little bit amped up.
I would say no one's heart is pounding harder than Keone's right now in this stadium. He has to feel proud, excited, nervous, just about a whole range of emotions right now, having gotten to the big leagues at such a young age, coming back to Seattle with so many friends and family here watching.
And the first hitter that Keone is facing tonight is Justin Ruggiano, a 125 average in limited play for the Mariners this year. Ruggiano took over for Seth Smith in right field last inning. That big breaking ball from Kela, it's in, 1 ball and 2 strikes. It is an outstanding breaking ball to go along with that plus fastball for Kela. Like that. One thing we've noticed about Keone, he'll pitch with a little bit of an edge. You give him an opportunity, he gets going, and he doesn't give any quarter to anybody. Keone last on the mound 4 days ago against the Angels. Worked the shutout inning. 2-2 to Ruggiano. And that'll run the count full. Ruggiano starting things off here in the 8th inning. He'll be followed by Logan Morrison, the first baseman. Robinson Chirinos saying, okay, calm down, Keone. Give me a good fastball right here and we'll get him. And they did.
Good call. Boy, there's been a lot of punch-outs over the last couple of innings. The Rangers now have struck out 1, 2, 4 out of the last 5 hitters have struck out. High heat, 94 miles an hour with that fastball.
One gone, and here's Logan Morrison, who is 0 for 2 with a walk.
It'd be interesting to talk to Keone about the exciting outing that he had in Oakland. First time out, how he got through that. The infielders came over and congratulated him, a big smile on his face. How he felt that day compared to this day, pitching back home in front of so many relatives and friends. Pretty good combination of emotions in the first month of the season in his rookie year.
I would imagine these are both days that he will never forget. The emotion, the experience.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, you talk about a young man living his dreams in more ways than one. Keone Kela out there tonight, and for the first 6 times out there as a major league pitcher. 1 ball and 1 strike to Morrison. Got him on the fist, but Morrison able to fight it off and roll it through the middle of the diamond. A 1 on and 1 out for Brad Miller.
Not a hard hit ball, but as has been maybe 4 or 5 balls like that, several of them have found holes. Haven't been hit all that hard. They've located a couple of hard hit balls right down the right field line. Back in the 6th inning, a double and a triple for a run.
Brad Miller's had a big night. Single, a triple, and RBI. Fouls off that first pitch into the glove of Robinson Chirinos. Miller driving in his 4th run of the year with the triple in the 6th inning. Mariners now 11 base hits tonight. 3 runs on 11 hits, no errors. Rangers 1 run on just 2 hits and no errors. Kella's next pitch. 1-1. This is the first game that Keone Kela has come in as a Ranger, where the game hasn't either been tied or the Rangers have been leading. Runner on the move, the pitch is swung on and missed, and Robinson Chirinos couldn't get a handle on it. It would be a stolen base for Logan Morrison.
Well, Morrison had a good lead, a big jump, and then obviously a perfect pitch to run on. Pitch down in the dirt. Robinson knows his only chance is to somehow pick that ball one-handed and fire all in the same motion. Couldn't quite do it.
Well, Morrison, the first Mariner stolen base by somebody other than Brad Miller. Morrison has himself in scoring position now. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count. And Miller fights it off foul. Yeah, prior to tonight, all 5 games that Keone Kela had appeared in, Rangers had either had the game tied or they had been ahead. Oh, a lot of responsibility thrust on the young man's shoulders in the early going of his rookie year. And he has answered the bell very effectively. 2-2. Kela, born in Los Angeles and grew up just on the a couple miles from Safeco Field. Jake Smolinski retreats, plenty of room to make a catch. He does. Morrison bluffing a move toward third. He stays put. He's there with 2 outs now, and Mike Zunino coming up. Kela saying something to Adrian Beltre. Keone, who turned 22 the day the Rangers flew up here to Seattle on Thursday. Rangers' 12th round pick in the 2012 draft. Zunino is 1 for 2 tonight. Had his first home run of the year, leading off the 5th inning. He was also hit by a pitch that was last time up. And he takes a strike.
He started to locate that strike zone with that 95-mile-an-hour fastball. 17th pitch coming up.
One and one now. Fernando Rodney, who has been more down than up this year in the early going, getting loose in that Mariner bullpen. That quiver that he uses, hold those arrows. It's been a little bit.
He's been out of arrows so far this year.
A little bit empty so far.
He's had a loss and a win. That's usually not a good sign for a closer unless he comes into a tie game. I think the loss was one he blew the save and lost the game, and the win might have been the same thing. He blew the save, and Mariners came back and won the game. I think that's what happened. He's got a high ERA anyway.
1-2 pitch. We'll try it again.
Rodney's given up 7 hits in 3 1/3 innings and 4 walks, and only has 1 strikeout.
It seems like every good closer, though, that goes through a rough spot in the first part of the year, the chorus of "He's done" comes up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's kind of dangerous to say those things about any player 2 weeks into the season, but it doesn't stop us from doing it.
Breaking ball, just barely getting a piece of it. Zunino stays alive.
I don't know how he got a piece of it with that swing.
Yeah, he may not either.
Somehow the bat touched the ball.
Wasn't exactly an aggressive hack, was it?
Because I don't want to swing.
And Torino's out to say something to Keone. A ball and 2 strikes. Logan Morrison, the runner at second base. 2 outs here in the 8th inning. Yella trying to shut the door on the Mariners, keep this at a 2-run game, give the offense an opportunity to get into the dugout and come up and do some damage. There's strike 3 as Zunino tried it once and liked it so much he did it again. Yella with a couple of strikeouts. 1 man left. We're going to the 9th. It's Fernando Rodney time with the Mariners leading 3-1. Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. By AT&T UVerse TV. UVerse has more live TV channels on the go than cable. And by your Texas Ford dealer. The EcoBoost Challenge is on at your Texas Ford dealer. Get to your best in Texas Ford dealer today. The 9th inning at Safeco, and that means it's Fernando Rodney time for the Mariners as they lead 3-1 over the Rangers. 38-year-old right-hander from the Dominican Republic is on now to take over.
Well, it's hard to find anything good about those numbers after 4 games. 4 walks, 1 strikeout. Hasn't given up a home run. There you go. Opponents are hitting .467. Short sample. It's only 3 1/3 innings. The Rangers only need a couple of runs right here. Beltre, Chu, and Chirinos trying to get it started.
Rodney, pretty basic fastball and a great changeup. And when his stuff is on, he can be as good a closer as there is. When it's not on, he can be as fallible as any closer. Now here's Beltre. Adrian 0 for 2 with a hit by pitch tonight. And Beltre now on the last 4 ball games without a base hit. Strike to the outside corner.
Rodney saved 48 games twice in the last 3 years.
Our Skag pitch tracker showing you that just tantalizingly on the outside corner. 1-1 the count. Beltre 2 for 12 against Fernando Rodney over the years. Rodney with 48 saves last year, 37 the year before with Tampa Bay, 48 in 2012 with Tampa Bay.
Rodney's throwing it up there at 96 miles an hour. He's just winding up and firing that thing as hard as he can. He's just aiming for the middle of the plate. Hope he throws a strike.
There's that changeup.
Come back with that thing.
That's what Beltre's got to be saying. Here I am 0 for 16. Rodney's throwing 96 and he throws me a 2-1 changeup.
I probably figured he had a better chance of throwing it for a strike than those 2 fastballs that he threw before it.
Probably right. The 2-2 pitch. Popped up. Morrison into foul territory. 1 out. I'm going to venture to say this hasn't been how Rodney's been throwing.
No, I wouldn't think so. And, you know, there's times, as good as he's been, where he gets a little wild, and it looks like by the numbers with 4 walks and 3 1/3, he's been a little bit wild.
I'm looking at the 7 base hits too. You're not going to get a whole lot of base hits when he's throwing like this.
No way.
A change up to Chu, and that's inside. Jinsu 0 for 3 tonight. Ground out, pop out, and a strikeout. Fastball in at 95. 1-1. Two balls and a strike. Rangers trying to make a comeback here in the 9th inning, and if they could come back and win this game against Fernando Rodney and the Mariners, they would win their first series of the year. They have lost 2 series and split 1. And the changeup on 2-1 floats back into the inside corner. 2-2. Spinning Chu around. The count is full. So Chu trying to get aboard with 1 out here in the 9th inning. Robinson Chirinos, the Ranger catcher, waits to be next. Payoff pitch. Call strike 3.
It's tough to contend with that when the guy's throwing 95 miles an hour. And then with a 3-2 pitch, you have to be ready for a fastball. And it's hard to pull the trigger on the changeup. Floats it in the inside corner and gets the call.
There's Skaggs' pitch tracker showing you that just catching the inside part of the plate. And Rodney now, with a pop-up and a strikeout, has 2 away in the 9th. He'll face Robinson Chirinos, who is 0 for 2 with a walk. Chirinos, a .217 hitter, takes a strike. Rodney's next pitch. 1-1. Rodney, aside from Seattle and Tampa Bay, he gets Chirinos, the ground out to Morrison, underhands to Rodney, and that will do it. So Fernando Rodney loads up the bow and arrow and fires one way out into left field. He gets his first save of the year.
He had Morrison looking for it.
Yeah. Well, the Mariners come back and win tonight behind Felix Hernandez by a 3-1 score. They have evened the series up. The Rangers will try and come back tomorrow For the third consecutive series, there will be a rubber game for the Rangers.